So the first thing we'll need when we go to do gesture drawing is a subject. Look around for 5 objects in your surroundings that aren't too complex. Like let's say a cup would be sort of the most complex form. Fruits and apples, that could be really good. It can actually be really helpful to choose something that's a little bit meaningful to you. The worst thing to do is choose something that totally bores you from the get-go. The only way we're going to sustain this practice of deep observation of an object is to be drawing something that we actually want to draw. I'm going to just start with one object at a time. And all we need at first is our piece of vine charcoal and a new sheet of newsprint paper. I set up a subject which is a pumpkin, and it's sort of a vertical composition. And remember when I said we want to really fill up the frame of the page? And so for my purposes, I'm just going to divide this into 2. But you could turn your pad vertically if you have a more vertical composition. So get in the habit of setting up a still life in a nice clean area where there aren't too many distractions. The first step is really to take a moment and have a good look at the subject. And look for the limits of the subject. If there are any corners or boundaries, top and bottom, side to side, different planes coming together. Look for things like that. If it has a subtle curve, look for that curve. Let me take you through the process really slowly first. There's 3 sort of gestures that I'm going to concentrate on. I'll call them shoot through, go around, and find the outside edge. So shooting through means I'm looking at my composition and seeing if it has a curve. And I'm also looking for the dimensions of my object. So I'm kind of finding the spatial relationship between the top and bottom, side to side, and if there's any major curve to take note of. So that's shooting through. It gives me a quick sense of scale. Go around is going to give me a little bit of a sense of volume. So I'm looking at the subject and I'm going around its volume in a few different spots. It's kind of arbitrary where the spots are. What we really want to do right now is just sort of feel the volume. So I'm looking at my object and thinking all the way to the back of this object, all the way to the front of this object. I'm kind of going around it spatially. So it's giving me a sense of the volume of this object. So we have our shoot through to find the scale, go around to find some volume. Now find the outside edge is actually blocking in those outer boundaries of this object. And you can see like the way that we did this, we kind of have our map here. And I'm not just like sort of doing a fill in the dots. I'm looking at the object and making slight adjustments if I need to here. So this is actually where it gets slightly more sensitive. I think this information is also sort of important. Scale, volume, and the outer boundaries. If we have a little bit more time, then we start to look closer for some more details within the form. And for me, I see some lines that extend outward on this pumpkin. So I'm just looking at my subject. I'm searching for information to populate this map that we gave ourselves. So now I'm going to do a couple of more 30-second gesture drawings where I change the subject slightly. And this is really helpful because we become more familiar with the object, both in our body memory and also in our studying of the form. And that leads to a better drawing. And don't get frustrated. Think of it as a way to warm up. And then we'll try a couple of 1-minute gesture drawings. So I'm feeling warmed up now after doing some 30-second and 1-minute gesture drawings. I feel like I have some muscle memory and I'm a little bit familiar with the form, and my attention is sort of tuned into the form. So before I move on to a different object, I'm going to do a 2-minute gesture drawing. But looking back at these warm-up exercises, I can take a good look at what I've done, and in just 30 seconds of drawing, we were able to see several different angles and see which composition worked well. So looking at all of mine, I really liked this composition. And one thing you might notice is that I didn't really slow down in the process, but the extra time allowed me to get some more information, some more searching. So I want to do a 5-minute gesture drawing next. This is how we might change our thinking for a 5-minute gesture drawing. When we do our shoot-throughs, our go-arounds, we might keep the pressure really light. And for some people this is hard at first, so I often tell students to hold the piece of charcoal back so that when you touch the page there's barely any pressure. It's kind of like the tickle of a feather, and that will keep your lines really light. And then when we go to do find the outside edge, we can try to be more sensitive and get a little bit more variation out of the line. And one last thing to note is, again, I'm not going to slow down at first. I'm going to stay aggressive, and then I'll have more time at the end to capture more information on the form of the subject. And here we go. So having 5 minutes really gives us time to keep searching and look closely at everything that we lay down and try to make adjustments. We should ask ourselves, do they look clear? Do they make sense? Or are they really ambiguous and in need of some more information? One area that I see in my drawing that isn't so clear, it's a little bit ambiguous, is over in this area. It just kind of fades into white, and so I can look really carefully at the form and see what's happening. What does it need to clarify that area? And I can kind of see that there is more surface information on the form that I could add to my drawing and help to just clarify things here. After the 5 minutes is up, adding a finishing touch or two is just fine. We each have our chamois cloth. Again, yours should be more tan. Mine I've used a lot. But you could come in and if there's an ugly mark or something that isn't helping, you can just carefully rub it out. It may be helpful to lighten some of those shoot through or go around marks that you don't feel like completely conveyed the form of the object.